Welcome to another episode of the Big Joel Show. Today, I've got a guy that I've actually known for a long time, Steve Papermaster. I call him the Pape. So if you hear me call him the Pape by accident, just know that I'm referring to the guy next to me. Steve's a 25-year veteran of the title industry and president and co-founder of First Title and Escrow, nationwide title and settlement services company headquartered in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Hence, he's here in the studio with me, which is awesome. His clients are lenders, banks, mortgage, real estate brokers, law firms, asset managers, and government agencies nationwide. Steve could go on for hours about all the different stuff he does because he's an attorney by trade, but really he's kind of geeky and he's a technical guy. So his company has a lot of really cool tech. But what I asked him before he came on today is I asked him to be prepared to share things that loan officers and real estate agents, real estate brokers, could take away from this podcast to enhance their business, to help them either sell more homes or list more homes or do more loans if you're a mortgage person. And, you know, there's a lot going on in our business right now, tons going on. And Steve is at the pulse of it because he's involved in so many different things, and we'll leave a lot of the high-tech stuff alone. And at the end, I'll give you information so you can contact him if you have questions. But Steve, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it.
I think you need to get just a little bit closer. There you go. Say something again.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah,
appreciate
you got
that.
it. You got it. So you got in the title business when?
25 years ago.
This is how I sucked their age out of him because he wasn't 10 when he got in, people. So he's been through it all. So give me an overview right now. Give me a bird's eye view from your vantage point, an interesting vantage point of what you're just seeing going on in mortgage and real estate right now. It could be tech related. It could be related to the title industry, anything. Just go.
Wow. Okay. The last year has been really exciting with regard to technology. And everyone is truly focused on the customer experience, right? Everyone hears that all the time. So everyone from mortgage, real estate, title is trying to figure out what they can add value, what they can do to add value to the customer. So we've seen a lot going on. We've seen a lot of really cool technology. If you start from the realtor perspective, there's been a lot of changes going on with the use of artificial intelligence and predictive analytics, where we're seeing sort of a 2.0 version of agents being able to now see trends and data available to try to figure out who's a home buyer, who's wanting to sell their home. And there's things been out there for a while to figure that out. You've seen that from a lot of big players, but there's even better technology out there right now, and a lot of cool companies out there doing some things to spot those trends and to help agents find those customers they're trying to attract in certain towns and down to cities and states, zip codes everywhere, to go and help these customers because they're looking for real estate and shopping in different ways, as you know. Yeah. And a lot of these types of technology offerings are taking advantage of that.
In the old days, I used to literally teach. If you see old tape of me, I would say high tech, low touch equals no money. It's high touch, low tech. Now it's high tech, high touch.
No doubt.
And one of the biggest mistakes that I see agents and lenders doing all the time, because everyone is super impatient. Hear me loud on that one. Stop being impatient. Is super impatient. You know, they want things immediately. You know, they get exposed to this technology and they think, okay, this is it. This is the end. This is everything. And I was just in front of a bunch of agents actually in Boise, Idaho last week. And of course, they're all stressed out at the end. They were talking about technology. And I said, listen, there's nothing that can replace the relationship that you have with your customer. You know, the technology
100%.
just enhances the relationship, makes it easier for the customer and easier for you and provides more value. But the relationship is what it's all about. What are you seeing? What type of technology? We'll just talk about agents right now. What type of things, you know, if I own a broker shop or I'm a franchise, you know, and I'm not getting a lot of corporate stuff, what type of stuff are you seeing people beginning to use and look at?
Well, you know, we've started to take advantage with our agent partners of some more collaboration tools, technology-based. There's some offerings out there that allow you to give the customer, I'm going to go back to that experience again, is giving the customer information to, for example, where they're moving to. You have someone that's relocating or moving to another town. They're not familiar with things such as, who do I need to get my cable set up with? You go sign a contract and you're moving in 30 days and there's a lot you need to do. So there's a lot of cool technology portals out there that we work with our agents on to give the customers all these tools, because a lot of people aren't doing it. You'll see if you go down to an individual closing, you'll see what happens where an agent will be at the closing table and then let their customers know, oh, this is who your utility provider are. This is your cable provider. This is what you need to do your hookup. So there's things you can provide them and automated tools in advance to then provide them this information to deliver just an easier, smoother closing experience. In the end of the day, the realtor is looking for a great relationship with this consumer so they can go and get referral business. And so a lot of these tools are focused on
so instead of
new
the old passing the paper across in the really cool folder that the agent paid a bunch of money for, their closing folder with all the stuff in it, the good agents are cutting that off, whether it's an app or whatever it is. It's all loaded in there before. They're not getting that at settlement.
Exactly. It sounds so basic, but this information it's just so helpful. It's so helpful to the customers.
And you're telling me, you guys do thousands and thousands of settlements every month and every year. Are you telling me very few agents are really adapting it yet?
It's amazing. When you start talking to agents about it, a percentage of them are implementing this.
Small
percentage.
Interesting.
It's amazing. I'll tell you something that's really caught storm in the last couple of months. We've implemented a product that is changing the way the earnest money deposit's collected. Sounds so simple, right? If you think about how that process works today, someone's either overnighting a deposit to you.
Hold that thought for 1 second. Yep. Stay right there. So he cut me off at the pass here because I was going to go there, and of course we didn't prepare. If you're not dead, you've read the news, and you're probably close to somebody, 1, 2, or 3 people removed, that completely lost their earnest money somewhere through some kind of scam. One of my clients in Jacksonville someone just ate $80,000. Gone in the wind. Ungettable. So where Steve's going with this, I just want to give them the beginning.
Sure.
Is there is a ton of fraud around that, and these people are really good. These people that commit this fraud, they're good. If they would just apply that knowledge to something good, they'd be really good at something. I mean, they're slick. And so I'm going to let you finish that thought, but this is all about protecting the flow and the earnest money. And this is for any agent out there, especially smaller brokers where your brokerage is not doing it for you, right?
No doubt.
So go ahead and go, and I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to give the beginning of that, because there could be people watching that haven't experienced that or haven't seen some earnest money disappear. And tell them how that happens, by the way. They get an email. Tell them what happens.
What happens is, so first it actually starts with your email, right? The kind of email that you're using.
Okay.
We're finding a lot of people out there are still using a Gmail account.
Okay.
Or still using, let's say, a Yahoo or Verizon account or whatever that may be. Not speaking obviously bad about that, but the idea is there's so many hackers, and what's happening is they're figuring out a way to break into people's email, and then they're tracking conversations going back and forth. So the first thing that would really happen is let's say a fraudster would track an email to see that a transaction's taking place. And then they would
see an agent send an email, or even a title company,
Yep.
Hey, you need to wire so-and-so here.
Correct. And what would happen is the first email, we would get, what would be a good email, they would say, hey, please wire my seller proceeds to this account. And we would take that information and we'd use that. And the first scenario of bad things happening would be an email coming 2 days later. Oh, Mr. Smith, can you please, I instead of wiring to my Charles Schwab account, can you now email to my Wells Fargo account? Here's the wiring instructions. And what happens is, as you can imagine, is it's not the seller sending that email.
They ghosted the email.
Yeah.
They've taken it over.
Yeah,
right?
They've taken over the email, and they're telling you where to send it. So a lot of bad things have happened just as a result of that. So a lot of people, a lot of title companies for a while now have made it very clear that No changes to wiring instructions. No wiring instructions by email. A lot of different. There's a lot of different
They've had
ways.
to build a lot of fences.
Yeah, build a lot of fences around these issues. There's some great technology we've implemented just with regard to seller proceeds alone. Even if we receive information as to where proceeds should go, we have another wall in place that we put that actually validates that account information before the wire gets sent out. So we will literally get we'll get instructions for someone, and then we will put those in our system, and it will give us a check. It'll give us a green and a red, and it will tell us, good to go. We're validating that customer's account so we know it's theirs. Or a red that says, don't send it. There's some issue, and it may be a valid account, but in that case, we're gonna question it. We're gonna call flag, and we're just gonna simply, you know what, we're gonna overnight you your proceeds, or we're gonna get another way to courier you a check so you get your proceeds on time, but we're not gonna deliver by wire, just because of the various issues. So it only happens in a small percentage of cases, but as you said, when you're looking at proceeds of anywhere from $10,000 to millions of dollars,
well, when it's gone, it's gone. It's not gettable. Like you can't get it back. It's gone. Yeah. I mean, it's literally in the air.
It's
who knows where it is, but it's in the air at 100 miles an hour, gone.
Yeah.
So that's one thing for agents. So if they're not, if their title company or wherever they're closing stuff is not using technology like that, that's a heavy recommend for you. Correct.
100%.
They need to be
you want to
using
ask your title
something
partners
secure.
Yeah. You want to ask your title partners what they're doing just to validate information. Also, I earlier started talking about EMDs. Some really cool technology out there, and you would think, well, God, sending a check. I'm just so used to doing that, or dropping by the title company, or sending it. Now there's everything you can do in the world with your mobile phone,
right?
That's secure. So we've got a great product that we've recently implemented that allows a borrower, an agent, to take that EMD they have in their hands at their office the day they're getting it, snap a picture. They identify the title company they're working with. They identify us, pick where the property is located, and they can even upload their contract if they want to, or send us some details in the contract, and it immediately goes to the right account. So nobody is having to send a check. No one's having to worry about wiring instructions. Funds instantly go over to us, automatically validated. We know where it's coming from.
It's easy too for the to bounce over to the loan officers. It's funny, we talk about all the time about running around before settlement with your hair on fire, trying to get stuff closed. And one of the big perpetrators there is EMD.
100%.
Always. So what do the lenders ask you for on that? What do you typically? What kind of documentation are you giving them? Is it just easy? Is it just showing picture of the check and the wire and where it is and it's done? Lenders are good with it?
100%. Yes, because we get an image over at the same time.
Right.
But a lender just wants validation that we received the EMD.
Right.
They're not asking for pictures. They're not asking for pictures of checks from the title company. It's more the validation that we received it, letting the customer know we received their funds.
And the lenders are taking that. FHA, VA, conventional, no problem.
100%.
So that significantly makes it easier for a loan officer on the back end if their agent partner is using that kind of technology, meaning for the chase at the end.
Correct.
For verifying that that's where it's supposed to be. Especially,
what you're doing is you're hooking your bank up directly with this provider, right? And then you can't do this with you can't just pick any bank. You're setting up an integration in advance.
Okay.
That's setting that technology provider up with your bank and identifying which escrow account that money goes to based on where that property is located. As those know where people do business around the country or in various states, they know that regulations require that you have a Maryland-specific account or a Florida-specific account. And you can't have other real estate funds from other states in those specific accounts, so you can direct it.
What percentage of your purchase money closings are not in an office anymore? Like what percentage of those are mobile? I'm just curious.
Oh, wow. Where our agents are traveling to, our closing agents are traveling to other agents' offices, 85%.
85%. You see that? Is that just normal?
That's normal.
The old title company with the big room and the bowl of candy is going by the wayside. I mean, that was a cool part about buying a house.
I know.
You know what I mean?
We still have a lot of candy.
About it.
We still have a lot of candy.
Yeah.
There's no, and people, again, the closing experience. It's not that it's not happening in an office. It's just not happening at a title company office. These days it's all about convenience where some agents may still see this where they say, well, I have to close by 2:00 because my title company closes at 4:30 and they can't have a closing past 4:30.
Right.
Those days are just, no one's really considering time. Everyone's, as a title company, you're working on someone else's time, and you want to be a great partner to that agent or that lender that you work with, and you want to work at the borrower's convenience, the agent's convenience. So we're going to obviously prepare to have that closing ready with checks based on what kind of transaction it is, where the state's located, whether we fund the same day, we fund the next day. So we just prepare in advance, and it's exciting. And then with the onset of e-closing, talking about the whole bricks and mortar and removing the traditional office closing, that's really changing things. There's a lot going on with that right now.
When do you think we're really, it's funny, I was just talking to someone, I was trying to explain to them, and I know this is your world, so I might even mess something up here and you can correct me on it, but they're just talking about how the whole rest of the world is basically completely automated, with the exception of mortgage, really. Even the real estate piece is pretty automated, but the mortgage still isn't. And I was explaining to someone that, a big part of that is, mortgage is risk-based lending. It's actuarial. And, when lenders are lending money, they're lending money based on an assumption that, okay, we're not going to have to foreclose on these people because of what they look like, because of their whole profile. And the foreclosure laws in the country are just crazy. I mean, they change per jurisdiction. I mean, you could be 5 miles from a house and walk into another township, right, and have a different type of law in place to actually foreclose on someone's house. And I was explaining this is one of the reasons it's not fully automated yet, because foreclosing is not just a general term that you can do anywhere at any time. It's very different depending on where you are. And because of that, it's really slowed down the onset. I can imagine some people that who shall remain nameless, who run massive companies that are taking over the world, how they're kind of like eyeing the mortgage business a little bit, and going, why aren't we in here? Why aren't we doing this? And then someone stops them and goes, this is why you're not doing it. You need to wait until this is cleaned up. Are we any further down the road on that?
We are. There was a lot of reluctance for a while about, e-notes and about foreclosing. Can you foreclose on electronic
with an e-note?
Sure, with an e-note. Now things have really changed. Fannie and Freddie are both buying e-notes. A lot of large investors are now accepting e-notes. You're able to get them securitized.
Tell everyone what an e-note is so they understand.
E-note is basically your note you're signing that tells you what your monthly payments are every month, and an e-note's just an electronic note, right? So when you go and you digitally sign a note, it's an e-note. So
no ink, no pen.
So right, and now instead of that folder sitting in the lender's office, there's now a vault. They call it an e-vault. And that stores all the documents. So to get to that point where you as a lender can e-close, you need to get an e-vault in place. And a lot of the loan origination platforms are connected or have their own type of e-vault to then prepare that lender so they can start accepting e-closed documents and produce e-closed, produce e-closing packages. So we're now getting to a place with e-notaries and e-notarization laws changing and expanding nationwide.
You mean no human being there?
Yeah. Yes.
So how do you notarize something without a human being there?
Camera. You're using a camera. So now what you do is there's now what they call remote online notarization going on in 20 plus states today, where including Maryland, D.C., and Virginia, where we literally could be I could be at my office. You could be at your house. You would be on a camera. You'd be using an iPad, FaceTime, whatever it is. It's not FaceTime, but you'd be using an application.
Something.
Yeah, you'd be using an application that validates you, and then you literally hold your license up to the screen to validate who you are, and that's you. And there's technology that actually reads that ID and validates that you're that person.
How many lenders are using that right now?
There's a number of things. So
very few.
I like to say there's about 24 lenders right now
using that type of technology
that are doing remote online notarization. They're allowing it. It's been a huge boom to a number of lenders.
That's a massive slowdown getting something notarized. That's like
it's
everything
amazing.
stops.
It's amazing. Yeah. If you think about the e-closing days way back when, it was a hybrid. They called it a hybrid because you'd have to wet sign the mortgage, and then you would e-sign the note, and you'd send a partial package back to the lender, and then you'd have to hand record the mortgage. It just wasn't a great process. But now, not only is there a full e-closing where everything can be digitally signed, including the mortgage that you can now e-record with the particular county, because thousands of counties you can now e-record documents. It's now the standard as opposed to the exception for e-recording. That's what's allowed this big expansion of e-closing. So now,
so have you seen the agents? So the agents that you've seen, what are they doing to replace that cool part of closing? Because you know what? Even though it's a pain to get in your car and go close, let's face it, buying a house is major. Most people, I forget the percentage, but most people, when they retire, their largest investment will actually be their home. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be an IRA, 401k,
100%.
or a stock account. It's literally going to be the equity in their home. It's a very high percentage. So it's kind of a cool thing, when you close, and it's a cool celebration thing. And I was making fun of the candy bowls
Sure.
and the old school walking into the big conference room and the title company, and that's years and years ago. I think most of you guys watching me know how long I've been doing this, but it's a long time ago. How do they replace that? I mean, that's a cool part of it. What are they doing?
It is. You know what? Instead of having the closing agent and the seller and at the table, you'll have an agent with their buyer there, and they'll be literally looking at a big TV, right? They're looking at a big TV today, and with a video camera, and they're just watching a closing go on. And everyone's doing it as a collaboration. So It makes it cool in a new way.
Okay, so it's almost like the multiple screens like going on. Okay, so they've made it. And how many closings do you think are going down like that right now? What percentage? How far into this are we? We 20% in?
No,
10%?
not even close.
Okay,
not even. It's a couple points.
So this is a trend. This is where we're going, and depending on what kind of market you're in, who your title company is, what lender you're working with, it's just going right there at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's going fast. It went actually at 100 miles an hour and then slowed down a bit because lenders are also trying to catch up and prepare, right? Lenders, they're always in an interesting position. They're trying to prepare, and everyone's so busy originating, and there's compliance, and there's the day-to-day, and then there's
how lenders pick
technology.
How they pick new technology, right? They study it for 2 years, and by the time they pick it, it's 3 years old. I mean, and if you think about it, to implement technology, if you have 1,000 loan officers, to implement that type of, we're talking about massive undertakings.
That's
massive.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to actually spend and invest, and this latest, these are all pre-taped and edited, but it is almost May, right, of 2019. And this latest little refi boom has helped a lot of lenders stick around because a lot of people were teetering. And they did a study, not a study, but they released some information last year that at the end of the second quarter last year, 2018, if they did a liquidity equation, something close to almost 50% of the lenders would have failed liquidity for their warehouse lines.
Wow.
And that wasn't the end of September, but so the people that were teetering, because there's a lot of mergers going on, there's a lot of people trying to buy other people that were teetering, got a little breath of fresh air. And the question is, what are they using that money on? Are they using it on technology, or are they using it to keep their doors open? And they really need to be heavily investing in technology right now, right?
100%. And what we're seeing is, while I know that they're all talking about rolling out an e-close, putting out an e-close initiative, they're also focused on the customer side. So they're focusing on that user experience at the beginning. So there's a lot of neat technologies out there that are focused on getting at that point of sale when that consumer is there and they're shopping and they're getting the mortgage or doing the loan application. That's where I'm seeing, when I talk to our clients today, I'm seeing they're putting their time and energy into that beginning phase to get the application process tighter and easier, because everyone wants to create their own rocket, right? And that's what we're seeing a lot today. But I do believe the e-close initiative will continue to push forward in the next couple of years, and it's pretty exciting, and people shouldn't be scared about it. People should really embrace it. No, nothing's at the end of the day going to replace the agent. Nothing's going to replace the local title, the local title company on the street corner. But there's some cool technology that will really help. I mean, even in the title space, switch gears for a minute. You talked about actuarial. You talked about them figuring out risk and adjusting risk. There's a couple companies that have, one in particular, that has used predictive analytics to actually create an instant title commitment that's curative free. So think about that for a second. You're able to, for refinance, you're able to order title and get a commitment back that's clear title, no issues, that you can close within minutes. They basically have used artificial intelligence to deliver this commitment, not 100% of the cases, but in a good percentage of the cases in some states right now. It's pretty exciting. And,
are you seeing that come with purchases as well?
Not yet.
We march in that way?
Yes. Yeah, we were involved with this particular company as they rolled out, a Silicon Valley-based company that has really done some neat things to deliver a faster product and, again, an error-free product.
I was going to say, it's not only faster, it's error-free.
Yeah,
and people always laugh about. I mean, you guys just get hammered constantly. Title insurance? Are you kidding me? What am I paying for? This is insane. I mean, how many times you heard that? 9 million times in your career? Like, this is a scam, until someone builds a fence on your, until you have an issue,
has a problem,
it's the biggest scam ever. What about these title, I was reading about them all the time, these title scams, these people getting scammed on their house, on their, they're getting phone calls and saying their title's not clear. You know what I'm talking about with that? The people are taking over their house based on. You know where I'm going with that?
I did hear years back in certain markets where someone was trying to people that were in distress, homeowners that were behind on their mortgage. Someone would come in and they would say, "Look, you're $20,000 in arrears. Why don't you let me pay your arrears?" And then transfer the property to me, or transfer half the property to me.
Equity stripping.
Yeah, equity stripping.
Yeah, that's over.
But this other,
Yeah, they're coming back with new stuff now. Where I was just looking at a program. I just saw it. I don't know where I saw it, but where it's a equity share. I can't even believe that you can securitize that.
Yes,
because the big lenders want nothing to do with those.
Yep.
With equity share.
100%. Yeah, we did see that out a couple years ago. I know what you're talking about.
What about QM, non-QM? Are you seeing lenders? If you look at your percentage of business, are you seeing that percentage just creeping up? That's non-agency.
100%.
And what type of programs are you seeing?
Seeing everything now. It's almost back to where.
Are we scary back?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think underwriting's better. Underwriting's better than it is.
Smarter.
I think people, and there's more tech out there. People have sort of learned the ways of how not to get hurt. I also think that with the current administration, regulations are easing. That's why you see banks doing better overall. You see record profits from all these banks all the time now. So regs are easing, and that takes us to that definition of a QM loan. I think that's going to change. Originally, which was important to title providers, is there was a rule in the QM laws that basically said if a lender or for a business owned even a small percentage of a title services provider, they had to include all the fees earned with that title company with the lender fees, and then if all of it together, including origination and the title fees, exceeded 3%, you couldn't sell that loan, right? It wasn't a QM loan, right? Exactly. Yeah. It was knocked out. So I believe the rules are going to change soon, and I think that may eventually go away because we are seeing more joint ventures that were dismantled because of all that are now coming back. Lenders are looking at the affiliate businesses again, especially taking marketing service agreements and all the wrath that caused a number of years ago with the CFPB.
Well, the agents are still in a mode where it's very hard. It's very hard for them to be profitable, and so that's why they look to a lot of these affiliate business arrangements.
Sure, 100%.
Some people to keep the lights on. I mean, it's hard when you're paying the lion share. I mean, when we started doing this, if you were a great agent, you made 70%. I mean, that was the best agent around, so at least there was some profit or whatever. What for loan officers, if you had a loan officer sitting in front of you and they said, hey, Steve, you've been doing this a long time. You're out on the street. You see people, all the time. What are there ways loan officers can leverage being more knowledgeable about the title process, being more knowledgeable about the closing process to provide better value?
Oh, 100%. It's interesting. If you ask a loan originator if they've ever read a title commitment, what do you think they're going to tell you? They're going to
it's going to be low.
It's going to be low, right?
Yeah.
So what we try to do is when we go into a lender of any size, we want to ask them about their processes and find out who's reading the title commitment, who's skimming it, because we want to give them just a bit of training on trusts and estates and tax liens, and just different vesting issues and transferring title. We see a lot of that where we have lenders saying we need to add so-and-so to title. We need to remove some from title.
So is it recommended, would you recommend it loan officers? It's funny because, I did this when I started. But
Sure.
Would you recommend if you're a loan officer, if you're newer, or even if you've been doing business a while and you're not really educated on this, that they take a guy like you to lunch and ask a bunch of questions?
100%. We even offer to lenders to just do a title one-on-one training with new loan officers in the business where they've taught them how to sell. They know it. They know what their job is for that lender. But if they could teach them title, it's not that they want their loan officer to be involved in the process.
No.
But when they get the questions from a borrower on the phone about these items, they're most likely having to hang up the phone, call their local title guy, say, hey, this came up. Can you tell me what do I need to tell my borrower? What do we need to do in this case? So it's not that they're there for that advice, but just so the bells go off in their head when they're talking to a consumer.
if you figure that 50% of marriages end in divorce,
Right.
and most people buy homes, you're probably getting those phone calls all day, every day. Correct? Because something is going on having to do with a divorce or separation or whatever that has to do with either a house being sold, a house being kept, a house being retitled, a house being, something going on.
100%.
Right?
It's either divorce or someone passed away.
Right. All day long. So that's an interesting takeaway for loan officers listening and for real estate agents. That's for both. Like if you don't think that you're really educated I'm just going to use the word title, but that's a broad word. I would suggest that whoever your favorite title person is, whoever you do a lot of work with in your market, that it's worth it for you to take a couple of minutes and sit down with them and really learn. This doesn't mean you're going to be giving expert advice, because I don't recommend that, but you would be able to give some type of advice to then be confirmed by somebody to say, hey, based on what I know, this is what you're going to have to do.
100%.
We're going to need to confirm it because, it's interesting. I would say if I put up, if I lined up 10 loan officers right now, they would be fairly weak in that department. They would be weak.
You don't expect them. Yeah, 100%. You don't expect them to know this. And in a lot of cases, they don't want to know. They don't want to know because they want to focus on what they're really good at. And I understand that.
But it's a value proposition that, to be perfectly honest, when you know that kind of stuff, it takes a lot of pressure from a rate shopper in 2 seconds.
Yep, you're right. Because it
of,
shows you've got an extra level of
takes
education
a lot of pressure
that someone else doesn't have.
If you're listing someone's house and you're going against a discount broker or something like that, and you're charging a full listing fee, which, by the way, you should be, because if you're doing your job, you're earning that money. You're going to sound a lot different than the discount broker there when you're really educated on that. And
Right.
Do you find that a lot of agents are lacking in that department? I know you do business nationally.
Sure.
Do you find that a lot of people could know a lot more?
I do. And we get some people calling us more than others, actually, and we will go and educate them more and talk to them about these issues and tell them what to look for. So some are seeking knowledge.
Yeah.
So-
What else? What else for loan officers originating today? Would you recommend? It could even be technology based. What do you recommend?
Well, from an originator perspective, the biggest thing that has to get out is disclosures in the beginning, right? So one of the biggest problems we've identified years ago was pricing, was getting instant, accurate pricing, because nationwide you have states that have different transfer taxes, as you highlighted. Title insurance rates are different, closing costs are different. So you want to get with a provider, a title provider that can deliver in an automated way pricing information to you for your transaction, so then you can price out on the fly when you need to, and then deliver that information back into your disclosure. So either you or your
that seems like
processor,
so simple. Are you telling me there are loan officers that are struggling with that right now?
Oh, 100%. People estimate those costs right now if they don't have access to something as simple as an accurate calculation platform.
What percentage of people are using the accurate calculation platform, you think?
You know, I'd hope that obviously more than half have to be using some kind of calculation platform, but there's a lot of people that estimate pricing, and there's a lot of lenders we've talked to in the past that build into their platforms estimated pricing, and they even estimate high, so they don't have a tolerance cure.
Mm-hmm.
So they make sure they're not having to pay out money after the fact in a restitution penalty. However, what they're doing by overestimating is they're going to lose a deal to a lender that's got automation that's accurate, and then their pricing is going to be perceived to be a lot higher, and they're going to end up losing that deal. So they want to leverage any technology that would be in their loan origination platform.
If you work for a big company, they're controlling that at their level, correct? You're not able to do that, right?
Interesting. 50-50, right?
Okay.
Sometimes the originator and the processor are able to. They're actually tasked with going out and getting the right pricing, because the lender may not have a pricing platform, or you have to deliver them. You as the originator, right, have to deliver the pricing to them, and then you get the pricing, and then you give it to the lender, and then they send the disclosures out for you. To your point,
right?
But they're relying on the information that you sent. There's a lot of areas for, a lot of problem areas in that way. But platforms like that really are critical for an originator right now.
So if you're an originator right now and you're not using something like that, you're a little crazy. It's stupid.
You're a little crazy, and
right?
you're wasting time. You may get the accurate pricing, but if it takes you an hour or a day to get that pricing, you've potentially lost a deal.
Interesting. Anything else for loan officers? I'm looking at the time. Anything else for loan officers that you see big picture? What do you see coming down the road, 2020? What do you see that they can control at their level? I tell loan officers all the time, and I'm talking to them, and they're complaining about something regarding technology, and I'm like, look, you're literally telling me you want to turn around an aircraft carrier by yourself. You're not turning the aircraft carrier around. It's not happening. The only people that can turn that around are in the control room, and you're nowhere near the control room, okay? And, you're not working for a tiny little company with PT boats. What they can be doing on their end from a technology standpoint, or even, it could be title technology, just trends that you see. Not taking this away from, call it the title world, but I know that you're very techie and you stay on top of that stuff. What are you seeing out there just as we wrap up?
Well, collaboration. We're seeing a lot more tools out there that are allowing agents and lenders and title companies to work together. Easier, right? So there's a lot of great collaboration tools out there. So then there's not the disconnect you're seeing with email.
Now, could you use these tools even if you worked for one of the big, massive companies? Could you still use these tools and then have it feed back into the process?
It depends. It depends. Yeah, it depends
on who you work for.
Yeah, it depends on who you work for.
So if you have an agent partner that you do a lot of business with, and that agent partner does a lot of business with a specific title company, and you guys are all working together, which is, if I think back to my business, I could point a lot of those out, where I'm doing a lot of business with one agent partner, and that agent partner pretty much always did a lot of business with this title company, and it was always, sort of a triangle going. There's collaborative software out there now where everyone can be connected very easily and seamlessly.
There is. And you can even control the messaging out there as well, which is exciting. We built some really cool tools, addressing a lot of that collaboration, where you're picking how people are even messaged. If you think about a real estate agent today, they're getting thousands of emails a day. So if you realize that the best way to get with that particular agent is messaging, is SMS, text messaging, right, for certain events in the process, you can build that into your platform based on the clients you're working with, and get people more, just get the touches when they need the touches, They don't want the phone calls. Emails are becoming less relevant that they're checking. So everyone wants real time. So we think the collaboration platforms are going to create more real time, faster closing process, like we talked about earlier, where this process shouldn't be 45 or 60 days. It should be a much faster process.
Does anything scare you as we wrap up, or where do you see the whole business? Where do you see it going in 1 year, 4 years, 5 years? What? I mean, I know that's a very broad question, but things are changing at 100 miles an hour. I think as they figure out this, you're calling it eNote, that's a huge jump off right there. I mean, I think that will allow some bigger non-mortgage players to come into the market in a safer way, because right now you need a lot of experience to close a lot of loans. You really need to know what you're doing and securitize them and make sure you're not buying them all back. Where do you see what does it look like in 5 years?
Wow, in 5 years, I think that, I mean, 5 years is a long time in this business.
It is. That's why
it's a long time in this business.
3 years.
I mean, it doesn't seem out of the ordinary that you're going to be able to, close a mortgage loan in a week. I don't see why you won't be able to do that, based on where the tech is going right now. Especially
the appraisal stuff is big.
Yeah,
coming,
valuations changing. The title information is becoming more readily available, more automated. Analyzing that data. The engines on the origination side for underwriting are pricing is becoming more, everything real time, faster. So yeah, I mean, buying a house that's sitting in, Starbucks or Panera, just sitting over a cup of coffee and buying your house, I don't see how that's. I mean, people are doing it today. Technically,
you still got to go look at it. I said to a group of agents, they were all scared about technology, and I said, raise your hand if you're okay with a potential buyer previewing your home without anybody in it with them, even if it's completely wired up and there's cameras everywhere. Are you good with a potential buyer letting themselves in to your home without anybody there? And not one hand went up. And it was interesting. And I said, that's a big piece of this. Who's going to allow people in their home
start there
without a licensed bonded agent? And until that happens, that piece, I don't see much changing there. You know what I mean?
You're right, because that's the only true part of the process that homeowner needs to touch and feel. Obviously, it's the biggest investment in their life.
Not one hand went up that said, I'd be okay with, their primary residence, not someone that owns an Airbnb where the people are in all day.
Sure.
Their primary residence with their, with their bottom drawer with who knows what's in it, with their, with their pictures, with their stuff all over. No problem. Yeah, just, go in my house and look around, without a licensed bonded agent 100%. With you. Not one hand went up.
Well, that just goes to show you.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Steve, what your website is?
Sure, First Title Services.
And it's FIR, right?
FIR, yep.
First Title Services. I've known Steve for a long time. He's great. He's natural in the coaching department. What I mean by that is he loves taking phone calls. That's his website. Your email, Steve at, right?
Yeah, Steve. Yep, Steve at firsttitleservices.com.
Steve at firsttitleservices.com. If you have any questions, we could go on for a long time here, but I'm looking at the clock, and I appreciate you all spending some time with us today. I think this is a great subject, and I think there's a couple of really good takeaways from this that you can use in your business right away. And as always, I appreciate you watching or listening to The Big Joel Show. You can listen to it and watch it on all major platforms. If you like what you see, please leave a comment. Follow us on YouTube or Facebook. And also, you can leave questions if you'd like me to answer them on the air as well. So with that said, we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you, Steve.
Joel, thanks
I appreciate
for having me.
it. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.